Okay, today's lesson is 3.5. We're doing this again because it's kind of a long lesson. And the title of today is not only just slope, as we did yesterday, but slope and intercept. And together this will help us build graphs. To begin, let's remind ourselves what the word slope was from Mr. Beek's comments. There was two R words he used to describe. Hopefully you remember that. One final reminder about slope is that we gave it a name using a letter in the alphabet. And again, you can blame the French for this, but for some reason M is what's used to denote slope. Second, from a couple days ago, we talked about making graphs using intercepts. Today we're going to specifically talk about the Y-intercept. You recall we had two intercepts that we graphed with, and you will be using what's known as the Y-intercept, and that's this one. And it will be hopefully a little bit less work. Okay, and reminder, the intercept is where you cross an axis. In this particular case, we are talking about the y-axis. Yeah? Finally, we have a special equation that we use. This is kind of like our bread and butter for the first few chapters. It is called Slope-Intercept Form. And we'll change colors here so that we use something to help our brains remember. But the m, the slope, is multiplied times the x, and the b is tacked on with a plus or a minus sign at the very end. And hopefully you've seen this before, but as a reminder, you may want to jot that down. Slope-intercept form uses both the slope in the front next to the x, and then the b is tacked on at the end. All right, examples, problems that you might see would say something like graph y equals negative 3x plus 2, using slope and intercept, and sometimes they'll even tack on something like find the, not y-intercept, which you need to for the graphing, but find the x-intercept. Okay, so we're doing two things. We're graphing and we're finding an x-intercept. All right, item number one. We need to identify what that slope and y-intercept are. Excuse me. So, to do that, we look in our equation, we say what's being multiplied by the x, and it's the m. There it is. When you write this out, make sure that you write it not as a simple number, but as a ratio. In this case, negative 3 doesn't have a denominator, and so we put a 1 here. Again, that's to remind us what is the rise, what is the run. Then we want to state what is the y-intercept. Again, we use the letter B to denote that. And I would suggest that you always list it out as a point, because it is a point. 0, comma, negative 2. And again, that's whatever is added on or subtracted at the end. All right, now we are ready to graph. We don't need to create a table or build any points. We can just plot this information. So first of all, put a dot at your y-intercept. Yeah? Again, remember, y goes up, positive, and then it goes down, negative. So put a dot at negative 2. Now we're going to use a slope of negative 3. Reminder, this is the rise, which is a negative number, and that's the run. So we're going to go down 3 and over 1. So let's go 1, 2, 3, over 1, and put a dot. And let's do that again, down 3, over 1. Now at some point you run out of space typically in your graph and you want some more dots. You can do the same thing but flip both the signs, which means you would go up 3, backwards 1. Okay. And then you'll notice that these dots all begin to line up in a nice straight line, which we can then draw a nice straight arrow through. Put arrows on both sides. Yeah. And so we've done the first part, and the second part would be to find the X-intercept. In this case, the X-intercept is a little bit tricky to find because it doesn't come out as a nice number. I see that it is somewhere between 0 and -1. So -1 is there, and 0 is here. And I'm going to guess that that looks like it's 1/3 of the way, or 2/3 of the way through. So my X-intercept here in this case is -2/3, comma 0. All right. My last problem we're going to do is find the slope in this equation. Notice the y is not sitting by itself. It's kind of like accompanied by a few other things here which we have to get rid of. All right, how do I get rid of them? Well, it's going to take 2 steps. The first thing we'll choose to get rid of is, looking at that minus sign, I'm going to get rid of the 5x. And again, because the 5x is joined by addition or subtraction there, yeah. Think of that as addition, and so the 2 is negative, so I'm going to add -5x to both sides. We are left with a -2y on this side. On the right side, don't add the 9 and the -5x. In fact, when you put them together, put the -5x first, and then tack the 9 afterwards. Again, using a plus sign, because we're just adding those 2 things up. Let's not forget our equal sign in between the 2 problems. Okay, so we got rid of the 5x, and now the -2. We're going to divide both sides by -2 to cancel, because it's joined by addition. So we end up with the y is all by itself, the -2's cancel. And here we have to think, yeah? The 5 is being divided by the -2, and the 9 is being divided by the -2. I tell kids, draw a little heart. Feel the love. So we have a -5x over a -2, and a 9 over a -2. Rewriting that so that's a little bit cleaner, my slope would be, the 2 negatives cancel, so I would just have 5/2. The x doesn't need to be up with the 5, I can just park it next to it like that. And then 9 divided by -2 is -4.5. Hopefully that makes sense, so now we can see the slope 5/2. I can also see the y-intercept. In this case, the problem said find the slope, so I write down m equals 5/2. Yeah? All right, good luck with your homework there. That's probably the trickiest type of problem. Again, the other problem being graphing an equation, finding the slope and y-intercept. And that is kind of the whole idea, the gist of the lesson, is that we are graphing using the slope and the y-intercept.